I also showed Jack Late Phases. So Jack, what'd you think about Late Phases?
I really like Late Phases. For those who, uh, quick description of the movie, it is werewolves in a retirement community.
Yep. Think like Bubba Hotep, but instead of a mummy, it's a werewolf.
Yeah, it's like a cross between Bubba Hotep and Dog Soldiers.
Oh yeah, there you go. Bam.
I didn't recognize too many of the actors.
Mhm.
I recognized the guy who played the son, but I can't remember.
Yeah,
his
Ethan
name.
Embry.
Ethan Embry, thank
who
you.
is also in The Guest and Cheap Thrills.
That's right.
Yeah, he was in both of those movies. Most of you, if you haven't seen those movies, might know him from Can't Hardly Wait, the teen movie from the 90s. And now he's gone on to being like a bit of like a horror icon, so I'm really excited about that. The main guy, actually, the guy who plays the vet, is actually the writer of Stakeland.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, the modern horror movies have gotten really crazy incestuous.
Yes,
because they're filled with like these people who are just multi-talented. So it's like, look, I need someone to play. Why don't I have you play the main character in my movie?
Yes,
and then I'll write a movie for you to direct.
Yeah,
and then you can do this. And
so we're gonna go into spoilers for Late Phases here. But before we do, it's a great movie.
Yeah,
you should check it out. It's a lot of fun. It's got some practical werewolf effects that are fucking kick ass. Even if the werewolves are a little goofy looking.
Yeah. The transformation sequence is great, but the actual final form werewolves are a little weak. But they're more a narrative device than anything. This is not a movie that is about like the horrific effects.
Yeah. It's more about the man and what he's going through personally, and the metaphor of what he went through in Vietnam and what it turned him into, and what the werewolf is.
Yeah. I actually really love that metaphor. The metaphor of like the PTSD being making you like a werewolf. Like there's a beast inside of you that just
wants to come out at all
times. And in some situations, it just takes over.
Absolutely.
The other like detail about the main character is that he's blind.
Yes, that's another good thing. He's blind, and he's got a blind
seeing eye dog.
Seeing eye dog. It's basically those two versus fucking werewolves. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah,
I love that because
really
you could easily just had him be a war vet, but adding the blind put a whole bunch of layer to the character and made it very interesting, because he's basically kind of like Columbo in the first half of this movie, trying to piece together what's going on, but he's piecing it together through like all his senses. Like he feels like claw marks on the wall, and he like smells dog, and all these things
asking these very kind of oblique questions.
Yeah, and all these things are things that someone with sight might just completely oversee, but because he's blind, he's keenly aware of it all happening. You know?
And he never actually comes out and outright says it's a werewolf, but you see the moment he realizes.
And that's actually one of the things I enjoy, is that there's no fucking around with this. Like, he doesn't question it or whatever. He just immediately is like, once he realizes that's what it could be, it's like, that's it.
Immediately goes out, gets a silver bullet.
Just right away. So anyway, spoilers.
Yeah, massive spoilers. So the setup is this blind Vietnam vet is being dropped off at a retirement community, not a retirement home, but one of those like communities that have been specifically designed for elderly people. And so it's like separated housing, and it's like a couple of acres, and
they even have their own church.
Yeah, they even have their own church, and he goes there. He's not a very friendly guy. He's a very like mean, standoffish, like leave me the fuck alone type of dude.
Yes.
But he does make friends with his neighbor just because she is nice.
She's very nice.
Very nice. And on the first night he's there, she's killed and then slaughtered, and then whatever no, it's his second night, isn't it?
No, it's his first night.
First night? Okay.
First night, she gets slaughtered, and his dog hears what's happening next door. It starts barking. The werewolf hears his dog barking and then breaks into his house to shut the dog up. Because one thing they establish in this neighborhood is that dogs just go missing all the time.
Yeah.
Why? Because dogs can tell when the werewolf's there and will bark. Which is established from the beginning.
Yeah, they established that immediately. The guy's dog is killed.
Not killed. The guy's dog is critically injured.
Oh, that's right.
And he's like feeling the dog up, and the dog's like whimpering, and he's just like, he knows what he's got to do. He's done it before. He did it in the war. He pulls out his gun and just immediately puts the dog out of its misery in one of the most heart-wrenching scenes in a horror movie I've seen in a while. It's next to like the Babadook or something.
Yeah, you're just like, oh.
And this is like in the first 15 minutes of the movie. Like they get you right away.
Yeah, and then it's just him like basically defending his house, avenging his dog.
Yes.
I look, I am really glad with like things like this and John Wick that they kill my dog as too much.
Yes.
I'm really appreciating that.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And among this whole thing going, his son is trying to like reconnect with him, and he's got this wall up, and so there's the subplot with his son. He starts going around town suspecting who might be the wolf. One of the people he suspects is the local priest.
Yeah.
Played by Tom Noonan, who some of you might know as the villain in RoboCop 2. He's also the guy who owns the house in House of the Devil.
Yep.
He's been around. He's been a whole lot of stuff.
Yeah, he's basically like, lovable milquetoasty old coot at this point. That's his character type.
Who you find out has like a darker past that he's trying to keep inside. And that's another thing. The dialogue in this, the exchanges,
dialogue is amazing.
It's fantastic. Like him as the war vet talking to the priest about darkness and like the past and like trying to keep the monster inside and how the monster inside transforms you.
Yeah, and the story of why the main character is so closed off and so like he just clamps down so hard is just horrifying.
Yes.
It's all told in dialogue, and I don't want to ruin it because it's a really good point of the movie. Even in spoiler territory, I don't want to give that away.
Yeah, absolutely. Other characters he suspects, there's these three ladies that he meets on the first day that he kind of like it's obvious that this is a man that does not take to false niceness very well. Genuine niceness he responds to well.
Yeah.
But the false, like, suburban, like, oh, hey, here's a fruitcake, he despises.
Yeah.
So he just completely just, like, snarks these women out of the room the first night he meets them. Which is part of the reason why later on in the movie he kind of starts suspecting them and, like, inspecting their houses. Like, he traces some of the wolf blood to one of their houses. Yeah. He goes inside and discovers that one of the women, like her husband's like on a breathing apparatus.
Yeah, he's like in an iron lung.
Yeah, an iron lung. And because he's doing all this, the neighborhood itself is starting to suspect that he's up to no good or something. Like he's untrust because he's a war vet. They're all worried that he's a violence. He's gonna commit violence to all of them.
Yeah, and so like these three elderly women like start to essentially plot against him, becoming antagonist B.
Yeah, they got him kicked off of taking. They organized so that he didn't have to take the bus to the church with them anymore because they didn't feel comfortable with him on the bus, and so the priests God, what'd you call that guy, like for the neighborhood, like the guy who drives him. He's like the priest assistant almost.
Yeah, I don't think there is a really good word for that because it doesn't feel, because there's always someone who kind of does that kind of thing, but they're not a member of the actual clergy. They're like,
he's basically the guy who passes around all the flyers about the church meetings that are going on. But he's not actually part of the church. He's just really into the idea of God.
Yeah. Like Jesus fan,
you know. And it's another guy that he suspects, who drives him to the church, and they have a whole conversation shit. Another cool cameo that's in this movie is that the guy he buys the tombstone from, at the beginning of the movie, he's checking out tombstones because
he's buying a tombstone for himself.
Yeah, he's buying one for himself, and then later on in the movie, he buys another tombstone for his dog. A much bigger, more expensive tombstone for his dog because it's his dog. And the guy who sells him the tombstone is Larry it was Larry. God, what's his name? Larry Fazden, I think is his name. You'll see him in a lot of horror movies. Like he's in Jugface, and he directed. God, what's it called? There was a horror movie set in the snow that was basically The Shining in the snow that I'm completely spacing out about. Um, ah, that guy made a lot of Wendigo movies.
Okay.
I'm completely spacing out on it. I'm sorry. Count Jackula will put his name down here.
Okay. So, but it's Wendigo movie guy.
Yeah.
Okay, he's actually the one that did Wendigo?
He might have. He either directed that or he wrote it or was involved with it.
Okay.
Because I believe he was. But if I'm wrong, Jackula will put it down here. He's wrong. Fucking like that's another cool cameo. Yeah, I think that's it with the cameos in terms of like iconic people.
Now this movie, one of the really cool scenes that it had is when you get to the reveal of who the werewolf is and how he became the werewolf.
Yeah.
And I really liked it because it explained why the werewolf was there, why he was a werewolf, but it just basically says the woods by the retirement community just has a werewolf in it.
Yeah, it's always had werewolves.
It's always had werewolves, and now this guy is one of them.
Yeah. He's one of the. He's a guy who tried to hunt them.
He tried to hunt
years
the
ago,
werewolf years
and
ago,
got
but
bit.
he got bit. Yeah, and now he's been slowly changing, and
which
it's
is
just
why
getting worse every full moon.
Part of the reason why he's obsessed with God, why he helps at the church so much, is because he's trying to find God, trying to fight the evil inside through the church.
Yeah,
through the priest's teachings. Which again, like all these parallels between all these characters.
Yeah. Well, it's a parallel between the original Wolfman.
Yes.
Like absolutely. Even a young boy who says his prayers at night.
And there's awesome references in this to other werewolf movies. Like there's an entire exchange about when he goes to buy the silver bullets about fucking the Lone Ranger. An exchange that was basically taken straight out of The Howling.
Yeah. When you think of, tell me, when I say silver bullet, what do you think about? Lone Ranger.
And the great part about that exchange is they actually made that more thematically relevant in this.
Yes.
Than in The Howling. It was kind of great.
Well, yeah, because like the old man is like the Lone Ranger.
Yeah, exactly. So it's glorious. This is a really great fucking movie. If you like werewolves, if you like practical effects, then
if you appreciated Bubba Hotep.
Yes. It's less funny than Bubba Hotep.
Yeah, it's not as funny, but it's still got that beautiful, like, man reaching the end of his life, like having to fight a monster narrative.
Absolutely. Silver Bullet's another movie if you like, you'll probably like this.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, I love Silver Bullet.
Yeah,
I love Late Phases. So yeah, if any of that sounds like it appeals to you, then you should check out Late Phases. It's currently on Netflix.
Yep.
It's streaming, and you should check it out, and we'll see you later.